Super Rugby Trans-Tasman, Friday game number one, Hurricanes and the Rebels. And the Hurricanes, I think, ticked the boxes that we needed them to tick in this game. The Rebels, in return, couldn't get a win, but they probably ticked a couple of boxes of their own after what was a pretty embarrassing match against the Blues at home the week before. We'll go through some of the events, some of the stats, and you guys can let me know your thoughts on how you thought this game ended up panning out. So it ends up being 5-2, so it is a bonus point win to the Hurricanes. I would say box number one is definitely get the win. Box number two is it should be a bonus point win, especially if you've just seen the Blues go into Melbourne and beat them 50 points to 3. The Hurricanes themselves scored 60 odd points over in Australia last week as well, so they would have been backing themselves to get the bonus point win. They did get it done. Not by maybe as comfortable a margin as they would have liked in terms of the bonus point margin, but the game itself wasn't really in doubt, especially when they piled on the last couple of tries. I would say the Hurricanes would have also been looking to improve their defence. As I said in the preview, they conceded 40 odd points against the Waratahs. And if you're going to have any shot at progressing in this competition this season, that's not something you can do week in, week out. And when you look at their tackle stats, I would say they certainly did that, although they did concede 2 tries. For the Rebels, as I said, ticked a few boxes, score a try. They couldn't do that against the Blues. They got 2 in this game. Don't get embarrassed. I think they can certainly hold their heads a wee bit higher because that's a pretty comfortable win, but it's not an absolute hiding. Could they push for a win? No. Were they in it at the death? No. Did they concede a bonus point loss? Yes. So some improvements, but still, it's a pretty comfortable one for the Canes. The Rebels survived a bit of early pressure early, but they did get yellow carded. Elof just too many penalties to the Rebels early. The Hurricanes kind of blew a couple of tries. One loopy one out to Savia after a big old scrum. Didn't work, too slow, but Savia got an intercept not long later. So I would say the Hurricanes will be a little bit disappointed with some of their execution. Savia's one was an intercept as well, which the Rebels will look back on and think that was a pretty costly one because, I could see it coming on the TV, and Savia, who's a hell of a veteran, he read it like a book. 7 points to 0. The Rebels did get a penalty during the yellow card, so Matt Tuamua said in the post-match that he thought they managed the yellow card pretty well. Aside from that intercept, I agree with him. But they did get a second try that came through Proctor not long later. A bit of weak defence on that one. Laumapea with a big old carry. Sweet offload though, and Taumatene, quick ball to Proctor. So 14 points to 3 during the yellow card. Pretty comfortable for the Canes. They did have some decent moments though, the Rebels. Powell had a good intercept on defence to prevent that quick fire, 3 tries from the Canes, which is something they were maybe missing last week against the Blues. They won a scrum penalty, which is something they really struggled last week against the Blues as well, so they were able to put the Hurricanes under the screws a bit. They couldn't quite convert anything from that. They got a maul, they got turned over. It was a bit poor in terms of their execution from their attacking play though, but at least defensively a bit more steadfast. And Flanders, he tried the old chip and regather. It only just went into touch that one, so that would have been a hell of a try, but not quite after Wes Hussen put in a big run. I swear they pronounce his name Huisen. I don't know if that's correct. I don't speak Afrikaans. I'm assuming it's an Afrikaans surname, but I think it's Hussen. I don't think it's Huisen, like the sauce. Anyway, maybe they've been having some stir fry. Possession 57-43 at halftime. Territory 64-36. So it's mostly the Canes. Knock-ons 1-5. The Rebels have got the 5. Run meters 240-98. Tackling percentage is 96-70. So the Rebels, in theory, should have been put more to the sword based on that defensive effort. But as I said, they were scrambling at the right times, and maybe the Hurricanes' execution was not quite there. And they started off the second half well to the Rebels. Credit to them, man. Whatever they said at halftime seemed to work. Michael Wells got a try, heap of phases. Callaway, I think, with a nice little tip pass, he got the defenders to bite in. So they missed the conversion, which was a bit costly. 14-8. 14-8's game on. Huston went really close. The Rebels won a defensive penalty. He reached out, did Hussein, but it was just not quite long enough. So it's another kind of blown try for the Canes. What I mean by the scoreline, probably could have blown out a wee bit more. But a minute later, Savia got a try anyway, to be fair. It was all from turnover ball. And Proctor beating some defenders, little chicken wing pass out the back. And 21 points away. So 21-8 is looking comfortable. But just as the Canes get comfortable, they hit back through Campbell Magnay to the Rebels. Powell with a quick tap in the build-up. I think Savia got stepped. Proctor was forced to bite in. So, maybe just not quite there also from the Canes. So, taking their foot off the gas a wee bit. Maybe it's the Rebels coming back into it. Probably a bit of both. Conversion hits the post. It was a costly one as well because 21-13 is still 2 scores. Whereas if it had been 21-15, that's a 1-score game. Would have been a bit more, I don't know, inspiring for the Rebels to maybe get up and fight for the win. But 65 minutes or 66, your man Hoyson, he gets a try from a ledger cross kick, and they'd tried that in the first half to Savia. This one was way more accurate. The maul had gone close. There was just so much space out there for Savia. Hussein. It was an absolute doddle for him. 28-13. Corabetti tried to hit back on 69, which would have been another kind of bit of pressure back on the Canes, but he was in touch. Good tackle from Vistinia, who had just come on. And Hurricanes ended up getting a yellow card warning for all the penalties they were conceding on defence, but they turned that around, length of the field. Messy period of play, to be fair. Hurricanes get a turnover, they tap it, they get a line break, and then they knock it on and get turned over. Rebels can't get it out of their own 22. They knock it on, and then with advantage, they knock on advantage. The big man Omua goes over for a try, just burrows over. 35-13, that's the final score. Rebels did have a chance to maybe steal the bonus point away. They wouldn't have got anything from it, but they would have cost the Hurricanes at the end. But they messed up a line out on their own throw. So finishes 35-13. So bonus point win for the Canes. I honestly think they'll be disappointed they left a few tries out there. The fact that it was still 21-13 is a bit concerning and does give the Rebels guys a bit of a feel good. But if the Canes take their opportunities, then it would have been a blowout. But anyway, run meters 500 to 260, so pretty comfortable. Territory is the Canes edged at 53-47, possessions 50-50. Turnovers conceded 18 apiece. Neither side will be all that happy with that. Penalties conceded 14-9. That becomes a new work on of the week for the Canes, man. You can't be conceding that many penalties, especially that many more than your opposition. It was giving the Rebels chances. Tackling percentage, though, that was the big work on for the Canes during the week. They did it, man. 98%. They missed 3 tackles in the whole game. 129 made of a potential 132. That's phenomenal. You'll very rarely see higher than that, man. That's about as high as you will ever see, especially with that count as well. The Rebels 72%, which is similar to last week, but maybe the Blues were just a bit more clinical. Maybe the scramble wasn't there, like the Powell intercept on the attack. Maybe that just wasn't there last week. I don't know. 92 made out of a possible 128, so not a good look. Not a good look at all. Tamua misses 5 tackles. Leota misses 5 tackles. A bunch of guys missed 3 tackles. You can't be missing that many tackles. Savia, 113 run meters, 3 clean breaks, 2 tries, but also 3 turnovers conceded. So not a perfect outing from him, but still good to see him back. Hurricanes host the Force next week. That one's in Napier. Because remember, round 3 was supposed to be that kind of neutral venues ground, but it didn't end up working out that way. And the Rebels will be away to the Highlanders at Queenstown. So if there's something to make you feel better about a 35-13 loss, it's that you get to go hang out in Queenstown for a few days. So cool beans. You guys let me know your thoughts on the game. How do you think it went? Do you think the scoreline should have been more for the Canes? Does it flatter the Rebels? Or do you think it's kind of fair reflection of the game? And I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.